And we are live. Jane.
Hello and welcome to TL News Night. We bring you the latest library news each month. My name is Jane Lofton. I'm the teacher librarian at Maricosta High School in Manhattan Beach. And I'm going to have each of our moderating team introduce themselves, and then we'll introduce our guests. So let's start with Craig.
Well, hi there. I'm Craig Seychelles. I'm an elementary teacher librarian in Seattle, Washington. And I work with the Washington Library Media Association. And I enjoy participating in this along with Nikki.
And thanks for throwing that to me, Craig. I'm Nikki Robertson. I am a high school librarian at James Clemens High School in Madison, Alabama, and excited to be here. And I'm going to throw it over to Sherry.
Hi, I'm Sherry Gick. I'm in Rossville, Indiana, and I'm a library instructional technology specialist for K through 12. And I'm going to pass the mic on to, who's left? Is that it?
Shannon.
Shannon, yes.
My name is Shannon Miller, and I was the district teacher librarian at Via Meter Community School, and now I consult and speak and write about teacher librarianship and education in the country and all over the world. We're excited to have you guys here tonight.
All right. Alyssa's still trying to get in, so we'll let her introduce herself as soon as she gets here in just a moment. So, Happy New Year, everyone. We're so excited to be here, and with the new year, we're trying some new things, so you're going to see a little bit different setup and conversation than what you've seen in the years past. And one thing we always want to do is learn and grow together. So for those of you who are joining us for the very first time this year or at all, we wanted to just go over a little bit about what is TL News Night, why are we having this show, why are we doing this, and the purpose behind this. We're excited tonight because we're going to talk tonight about the Learning Commons movement, particularly in Maine, but we're also going to talk about it in our different states and what we're doing in our own schools. If you have any comments or questions during the show, please use the hashtag TLChat on Twitter. We will be monitoring Twitter all night long and looking for your comments or questions that you have. If you are also familiar with how to use Google Hangouts on air, you will see on your screen a little button that says to join the Q&A portion of this. So if you're not comfortable with Twitter, you can use the Q&A portion to send us questions or comments as well during the show. The purpose of TL News Night, it's a live show presented in news show format. We have special guests not only from state library associations, but all across the education spectrum. And we'd like to have this to bring library news and school programming straight to you. Again, why do we do this? We do it because we're the media now. If you don't like the way that libraries are depicted, we need to tell our story, and that's what we're doing, is telling our story because it's so important. If you would like to be a part of the show, we have now on the TL News Night wiki, all you have to do is go to a search bar, type in TL News Night, scroll down, and I just made today a thing link of all the shows that have happened. So in the thing link, if you click on any of the little play buttons, you will be able to automatically go to where the video or recording of the show is for each one of our states and see our upcoming shows as well. If you want your state library chat to be part of the conversation, just go to the TL News Night wiki and fill out the form that is on that page. But now, we're not here to talk about all that. We're here to talk about Learning Commons movement with the Maine Association of School Libraries. So I'm going to stop our screen share. And again, remember to use hashtag TLChat if you have questions or comments, or use the question and answer feature. So now it is time for Sherry to introduce our guest this evening. So Sherry?
Okay, Nikki already mentioned that we have great guests from the Maine Association, and I want to start by introducing my friend Jonathan Werner. You might know him as Maine School Tech on Twitter. He has an awesome job title, which I borrowed for my own job title, so he's a library and instructional tech specialist. You know, we love to borrow and share in the TL world. Jonathan leads one-to-one Tech Chat. You probably know him for that, and he just does such awesome things in his libraries and schools. I can't wait for him to share the guest and that he has tonight and to hear more about their Learning Commons, because they are doing some amazing things in Maine. So take it away, Jonathan.
Thanks. Hi, guys. I'm Jonathan, and I know a bunch of these people through ISTE, but also have had the opportunity to get to know the Maine Association a little bit better, and in the last couple of years. My colleagues with me this evening, Amanda Kazaka, who at the moment is having a very difficult time because she can't hear us. So if anyone has any interpretive dance versions of Learning Commons they'd like to share, she should be able to watch those. Amanda's also a library and instructional technology specialist. She works exclusively in our middle school in Cape Elizabeth, Maine, and I work half-time in our middle school and our high school. And our responsibilities are, as you might imagine, in both spheres, and we work pretty hard to blend those two as much as we can so that the digital and the print and the library and the technology don't have any clear divisions. In a similar vein, Jen Stambro is next door to us in South Portland. She is the K-5 Library Information Integrator for Skillin Elementary, as well as the K-12 Library Coordinator for South Portland, and a member of MASL. And she'll be talking about their experience in the Learning Commons movement as well. I'm just going to double check. Actually, I'll stop for a second since Alyssa's here now and let her introduce herself. Alyssa's muted.
I will unmute myself. Hi, everybody. So sorry. My computer took way longer than it should have to load, and then I couldn't find the link. I'm Alyssa Malaspina. I'm a teacher librarian from Somerville Middle School in New Jersey, and I can't wait to learn from everybody.
Cool. So I'm just going to check. Amanda, can you hear us yet? Oh, she can hear us now, but we can't hear her, and she's not muted. Wow. All right. So we're going to come back to her. While Jen's talking, she and I will try a little, Amanda and I will try to do a little work to get her sorted out. She was going to introduce the bigger idea around Maine's work with the Learning Commons. Back in April, we had Spring Fling, which was MASL's annual conference, hosted at Cape Elizabeth, and had the incredible good fortune to have David Lorcher, who sort of spearheaded the movement for the Learning Commons, credited with a 2007 article in School Library Journal called Flip This Library. And that really began a kind of different experience for many people, rethinking, oh, I think I might have just heard Amanda's dog barking.
No, that's my nut.
Oh, sorry. Amanda has two lovely dogs, in case you're wondering. So we had David come and speak, and he told us a little bit about the movement nationally and the decision to make this the year of the Learning Commons. So I'll show you our before and after picture to start, and then let Jen talk a little bit about their experience in South Portland, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you a little bit more about what's going on in Cape Elizabeth, and then we'll take some questions and see what else we can talk about. So I'm going to screen share here for a moment and show you that. There we go. And that's our library before and after. So that's the middle school library that, with about a $25,000 grant from our Parents Association, we physically completely transformed. And when I come back to talk in a few minutes, I'll tell you a little bit more about the journey. But I will say that one of the major defining characteristics of most Learning Commons is the capacity to host all kinds of different events and all kinds of different learning experiences, not the traditional ones. And so in many cases you'll see a physical transformation to mirror the pedagogical or sort of the intent of the spaces. And on the right hand side of the upper image you can see our former stacks, which I'm sure a lot of people have. They're 8 foot tall, and my 5th graders are often 4 feet and sometimes shorter. And I had a patron who wouldn't check out anything in the top couple shelves if you looked at her patron record because she couldn't reach them even on a stool. So that doesn't seem like a very good theory of library circulation. And we had 9 rows of those shelves coming towards you in the upper left. And on the bottom now you can see we've moved all the stacks to the walls except for those low shelves which all roll. And I'll show you a video in a second of those being transformed, but in general, the capacity to be much more than the traditional library book storage space has been a central tenet of our work. So I'll turn it over to Jen to talk a little bit about South Portland and then come back to Cape for a couple minutes, and then we'll start taking questions and making a few statements about our own experiences.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for having me on here, Jonathan, and inviting me to come talk about South Portland schools. Your transformation in Cape Elizabeth has been so great with the physical space. We've all been really impressed at watching that transformation happen over the last couple of years. In South Portland, we really embraced the Learning Commons idea, the sort of Joyce Valenza that libraries should be more kitchen and less grocery store, probably starting about 5 or 6 years ago. We changed our titles from Library Media Specialist to Library Information Integrator, and formally put in the job description technology integration as part of our jobs. We have some people with technology integrator master's degrees and some people with library degrees kind of working as peers and colleagues together. I am an elementary librarian, but I'm also the K-12 coordinator, so we have a very strong departmental approach. We work very closely together, trying to be in sync and try different things in different buildings. So that's kind of where we started with our Learning Commons transformation. We also, part of the change from our titles coincided with a big bond issue for fixing up the high school, and so we've built a new high school Learning Commons where we've put all the technology staff, all the library staff together in the same space, and created a lot of very open, differentiated spaces for making and small group meeting and lots of smart boards and great ideas all around. Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you. You sound wonderful. We're enjoying it. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me now that I've trying a headphone microphone?
Yay, Amanda!
Thank goodness I had 3 different computers to try to use. I finally made it.
Darn
my growth mindset.
But you stuck to it and you didn't give up. What a great example you're setting for the rest of us here.
That's great.
All right, Jonathan, where do we want to go? What do you want to do next now that we've got everybody on board?
Sorry, I was muted. I was yammering away. Sorry. So, Amanda, we talked about South Portland's experience. If you could go back to the bigger statewide idea that we have, and I mentioned that David Lorcher had been to our Spring Fling, and then I'll come back and tell people a little bit more about what we did in Cape.
Okay, so you're asking what at the state level is similar to this transformation in the libraries, perhaps?
Yeah, sort of how we've been seeing more than just Cape and South Portland's work, shifting. Right. Jen gave that great example of shifting from grocery store to kitchen.
Absolutely. And I was thinking before this session how important it is, the mindset versus the space, and is it the flexible mindset that's more important or the flexible space? I think a lot about that. I really like the analogy of kitchen or grocery store, Jen. That's a good one. What happened in Cape, and I'll let you talk more about it, really came about naturally. We just happened to have that mindset and that teaching style that led us to want a kind of space that matched that. and we stumbled upon the idea that, oh, this is called the Learning Commons. Hooray! There's a thing, and we know what we're talking about. So that's the way it happened in Cape, and it's happening in that way in other schools, but sometimes it's the reverse. Maine has, unfortunately, a terrible shortage of professional librarians, which is not to say that the support staff that are ed tech, educational technicians, that they aren't committed and talented and passionate about learning and reading, but that's the big deal we have here in Maine right now. And so it matches in a way this Learning Commons discussion in that, what comes first? Is it the philosophy of the program? Is it the needs of the students? Or do you just kind of cobble together what you have and just keep hoping it works and hoping you have the right administrator who loves libraries? We really have to flip it, and there's a lot of realizations people have to have in Maine about moving forward, that you really can't be just a literacy specialist librarian in the state of Maine and hope that your position is going to be really fundamental in the school. Jen and I have in common, and Jonathan obviously, we have literacy specialists in our school, and I'm fortunate for the comment from a principal of mine, Steve Connolly, who said, when I first started in Cape, Amanda, we have a lot of literacy specialists. You don't need to be that person. What do librarians do that no one else does in the school, and go do that? So at the risk of rambling anymore, I think what we all have to kind of ask ourselves that in Maine schools and Maine libraries, and this movement, this Learning Commons movement, really does make sense, and we can share so many videos and photos about when it works, and Jen and Andy Wallace in South Portland have really made their program fundamental in the ways that you've connected and you are concrete in the assessment reports, and you are in the curriculum, and you're embedded now, and you're fundamental for that reason too. So that's really the way I see Massill's facing, as well as our own redefinition. The organization really is at a turning point, and we're looking at ourselves pretty harshly and asking the same thing. Are we necessary? Are we fundamental? And if not, what do we need to do? And yeah. That's it in a nutshell.
So I think we've also sort of kept an eye. Some of the states around us have already been through the transition that Amanda just mentioned, where if they have not been, to quote this Nikki person, telling their story, then they're finding that they're marginalized. And we've seen that happening in all kinds of places. Rhode Island really suffered close by to us, and I think Amanda's work going forward has really been clear, or sort of mission-driven, that we have two choices of fight for what we believe in and are a necessity, or just watch ourselves get pushed to the wayside. So in Cape, I should say that Cape has a really remarkable program and is incredibly well supported. Our building principal and our district administration have been incredibly supportive. But I'll just show you a couple befores for us. As Amanda said, we were really putting in place a space to afford, is the word we like to use, meaning not just allow for, but catalyze the kind of learning we wanted to see. And this is a pre-renovation where, to find a quiet space, kids would hide under our computer table or go out in the hallway. This is all the way across the building where there's an elevator lobby. On the right here, you see our super high-tech former presentation system. That would be a IBM Selectric Crank typewriter table. And then it projected onto a 4-foot by 4-foot whiteboard, which was in blazing sunlight every morning. So if you were projecting something you couldn't see. And as I showed you a minute ago, we had all these stacks over here. Amanda, by literally undoing them herself before I got there, had gotten rid of stacks that extended another 3 rows to the left, allowing us this classroom area, which had 12 300-pound tables. So when we said things like, hey kids, move the tables around, an hour later our middle schoolers were sweating and there was no difference between before and after. So now this is one of the kinds of layouts we have. The one thing that's wrong in it, and I think Amanda and I love talking about this in terms of growth mindset, that at the very bottom, what had been intended as a circulation desk, that U shape, is now split in half, and the right-hand side is twisted 90 degrees to be our circulation desk, and the other one is all the way in the back of the room. And Amanda pointed out one day that the general fiction collection was getting all the nice sunlight from our gigantic skylight. So I came in one morning to discover her basking in sunlight, and general fiction had been moved elsewhere. And I'll show you in a minute what it might look like for us to do a transformation. But that's what you see now when you come in. And the comfortable chairs, I often put in a plug for because they came from Craigslist, and they were $50 per chair.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
Sorry, this sounds really lovely. Can you switch, please advance your slides? We're not seeing anything but the first slide you had there.
Oh, how strange. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So, is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently when I turn on Keynote, it doesn't work. So there's the presentation system. Craig, thank you for interrupting. I'm sorry. That's the old layout. There's the new layout. And then, or one of them, it moves around all the time. And then that's what you see now. And these big chairs are what I was mentioning. They came from Craigslist, and because they came from a hotel, they were California Thou Shalt Not Explode in a Fire compliant. And, that meant that we could have 12 of them for $600 instead of 1.5 of the $400 ones that we found. And Amanda and I love this kid who said when we first opened up, Mr. Warner, it's like we have a room of requirement from Harry Potter, and we've had everything from karate classes to big gatherings. This is our opening gala. We try to have balloons as much as possible, but it's not always a daily occurrence. We genreified our collection, and that's something I can talk more to people about if they have interest. Amanda and I undertook this remarkable packing and unpacking for the renovation, and as we did that, we decided there was no better time to genreify. So Tiffany Whitehead is a great resource for that. Here you can see kids just kind of hanging out. This is pretty common for us, and really the kind of learning we want students to feel like it's their space and that they embrace it as much as possible. And then I'm hoping this will work. If I hit play, can you see this going fast forward?
Mm-hmm.
So this is Amanda and then me in a minute, moving from a presentation system to a classroom setup. And she does this often 5-6 times a day.
It's my exercise routine.
Yeah, you can actually push the shelves around. It works pretty well.
Right.
And we put in a pretty expensive presentation system because we decided that it was well worth being able to do that for a lot of different events. But by far our most utilized new resource is the Green Screen Studio. And Amanda, my predecessor, this was his office, and we determined that it was better used as a student space. So it's both a green screen studio and also a small kind of quiet study room. And I'm now about to share the secret of the universe. Take a screenshot. This is the paint color. We researched it extensively. It is Gamma Sector Green from the Disney collection, and I'll tweet out this image in just a second. They don't make it anymore. You actually have to take them this sticker, but it is perfect. It is a really fantastic color for our green screening. And then I'll leave you with this, which is a larger class on the left and then a faculty meeting on the right. And both our faculty and the people who gave us the grant, the Cape Elizabeth Education Foundation, hold their meetings now in our space. And I think both Amanda and I are thrilled to see it used in different ways than it was before. It is in no way the Dusty collection. We did pare down the paper collection and boost the digital collection, but really in terms of the seamlessness of that mindset, and that we see our resources as undifferentiated whether or not they're in print. So Amanda, I know I didn't miss anything, but what else?
And I don't know how long all of you want Joe Zaka to talk tonight.
That's what we're referred to in our building.
We just
it's dangerous.
Going. I would add that the importance of changing, like I said, mindset, but as much as the furniture is flexible, you need to be flexible, and as much as you would like to find the perfect arrangement, do you really want to ever have it all in the same arrangement all the time? So I feel like it's more of a, it's not just a flexible, agile space, which is what we say quite a bit to people who come and visit. It's constantly evolving. And we thought we were pretty, flexible and welcoming and inviting before the transformation of the space. But I think, again, as Jonathan said, we have been afforded this chance now to be even bolder and bring in, more speakers and have more events in the space, have the cardboard challenge like we did the other day, or Hour of Coding, massive events in there. And it's just not what most people would think of happening in a library. It's so noisy and messy, and it's not a quiet place, and it's constantly changing. And that's what we need, and that more than anything, when I think about what Maslow's might offer as professional development. Jen and I talked for 3 days straight at ALA this past weekend. What do we really need to offer? And I think we all really need to start thinking about that mindset shift and that flexibility, looking at what we do completely differently. And I'll tell you, it's fun. We're having a good time in the Cape LLC. All right, Kozaka out. I'm going to turn my mute on.
So
for a second.
Oh yeah.
Amanda, I think you're just right about having a good time and having the growth mindset. I mean, I think that the library, and the Learning Commons model, in order to sell itself, part of it needs to be that we are educational leaders. I think for a long time, librarians saw themselves as support staff for teachers or support for students. But we need to sort of see ourselves in a leadership position where we're trying out new things and, constantly pushing the boundaries and bringing in a sense of joy and play into everything that we're doing. People want to invest in things that are going well. So when we are, positive and playful and energetic, we go a lot further. And one of the things that we've done in South Portland is instituted like a district-wide 3-year cycle for reviews and goal setting, which doesn't sound really that exciting, but we agree on a tool. Last 2 cycles we've used the Colorado Highly Effective School Libraries review tool. We've used that to invite people into conversations with the sole purpose, really, of uncovering what do people want to see next, or is there a vision, or can we plant an idea for a vision next, like maker spaces or Genius Hour and things like that. And then we do that, we set a goal setting, and it's very public, and it has kept us as a department moving forward instead of just one school doing one thing and another school doing another thing, and that has helped us, I think, in advocacy to maintain our funding and maintain buy-in from our administrators.
Absolutely. I like that idea that it's, just to paraphrase you, that it's our job to lead the teachers versus support the teachers, which is really kind of coming up behind them and, okay, I'll fix it if it breaks, versus pulling them to do more, and the same with the students.
We were talking about, buying an encyclopedia set versus saying, how about try the, databases that are offered through the Maine State Library.
I think.
Jonathan, why don't we do this, because one thing with the new year, one thing we wanted to change up and do is to try a roundtable approach to the conversation. And we really have, I've enjoyed, and I can see the expressions on everyone's faces and the comments we're getting on Twitter. We're really enjoying what you've shown that you've done in your libraries, and we're learning so much. And this is one thing I love about TL Newsnight, is because I learned so much, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to start doing that in my library. But why don't we throw out a question, because I see a lot of things like being a leader. Okay, but how does that look in our libraries, and what can we do to do that, and maybe get a roundtable discussion of that started, or anything else you want to do. Leadership is just one thing. I know that online, Heidi from the Kentucky Library Association is saying, well, the big question she's seeing right now is how do we make ourselves relevant? So where would you like to start with that roundtable discussion? And are we going to go ahead and approach it with Amanda starting first, and we'll move our way around?
Amanda, why don't I go, because I have a very specific thing that I think goes off of what you just said. Are you guys seeing the 4 C's slide that I have up?
Yes.
Okay. So Amanda and I have really undertaken to shift the purpose of this space, and I am the king of cheesy hashtags, but a couple months ago we had a situation in Chicago where a school was losing its librarian, and I had the vision to come up with hashtag can't shush this. Can't shush this. Dun, dun. Okay, so what I realize is that if we're shushing in the library, there goes Nikki. Oh boy. If we're shushing in the library, we cannot be advocates for creativity, communication. We were basically saying stop doing those things if we're shushing them. So I would say that a big piece of our leadership has been to get people to rethink not just the purpose of the space, but what the heck are we doing in our classrooms, and what are we doing with our kids? And if the space is and our purpose is modeling that, one of the Learning Commons tenets is modeling best practices. So I guess I would say, where have people had the opportunity to feel like they have modeled best practices and seen some traction there? Or, well, let's be positive, it's the new year. How have you been successful in modeling best practices and moving us towards 4 C's instead of a consumption-based education?
So if we follow the format, Sherry is next, and then Jane and Craig, me, Alyssa, and Shannon. So Sherry?
Well, I've been following you guys as far as Jonathan. You know, I like to kind of emulate some of the things you're doing in your library, and that's been our project for the new year, as far as we've been gradually moving towards a Learning Commons type area in our library. And so we went one-to-one this year, and we still had 30 computers in my library that I needed to get out so that we had space for the tables for the kids to sit in, and new semester is out to space and to teachers that students can be not computers but doing things and learning. And like you said earlier, it's not going to be quiet. It's going to always be messy, and that's okay. We're not going to be shushing, and like you said, it's very similar as far as my studio space used to be my office, and that's also where I send students who can't stand the noise, because it is a little bit insulated with the glass, and so, but otherwise the library has to function that way, and we've got to model, like you said, kind of keep. I love what Amanda said as far as we sometimes have to drag the teachers along with us. I mean, we can't wait for them to come. Sometimes it really takes that little push and just one or two of them, and then that ripple effect is there. So I'm trying. We're getting there.
That's great. And I love seeing your tweets and Facebook posts about what you're doing in your library. I appreciate you sharing that as well. Jane, what's going on over there on the California coast?
Hey, well, you just want me to share what I'm doing, right?
With modeling, with respects to modeling, Learning Commons.
the library that I'm at, it's a high school. I have the luxury that it's a very large library, but it is very old, and there isn't a lot of flexibility. The table area can be moved around, and we have lots of meetings and lots of other events in there. The computers and the bookcases, I can't do anything about. So the kind of attitude that I've pretty much taken is that as much as I, just envy these wonderful spaces, my attitude really has had to be, it's really not about the space, it's about what you do with it. And so we have started a makerspace in my library this year, but it's not a space. It's that I have 3D printers and I have some little bits and a few other things, and we bring them out and we use them for events, at lunch, and so on. And we just move everything around that we can, and those things that we can't, we work around. And in order to get people to use them, I just promote. It was frankly kind of slow while I've had the 3D printers since last June. It's been kind of slow getting students interested in using them, surprisingly. But I've been talking to different teachers, and we just had the computer science teacher decide that he wanted to do a project with the students. And now we have about 100 students doing projects with them. Our class is going to be coming in, so that it will fan out from there. So I work with what I can, and I do a lot of promoting.
I think that's key too, Jane. Thank you. It's now Craig's turn to put in his 2 cents worth.
Well, I'll do that because I have had the joy of really farming the library out to a lot of different people. I give up space in the library office for my English language support staff, so our Somali interpreters and our Spanish interpreters get to work there. I give space and share space with reading support interventionists. So, I just drag a little partition and they'll be working with 3rd graders, and 50 feet away I'll be working with kindergartners, or halfway across the room I'll have a class at a presentation station. Before school, it's not my space, but it's busy. There's 60 kids in there with a before school program. We have a thing in here like AmeriCorps, a city year, and they're in here doing homework support, and I just visit, and they're here after school. Sometimes you get wondering, am I still the librarian in this place? It's wonderful to see how many people find the space essential, and everybody is making room for one another. So there's no question that leap of faith into the Learning Commons is rolling well up here in Seattle. And with that, I'd love to hear, Nikki, what you're doing.
Okay, unmute myself. This year has been really amazing for me, but mainly because I've learned so much from all of you. I've went back into the library this year after being away for a year, and am in a school where I have established a makerspace, and I feel what Jane was talking about so much, and so how to lead, and how do we do that leading? Well, we had to build trust in our teachers, we had to build trust in our students. Me coming in as a brand new librarian after somebody else had been there, and not being there when the school was first built 3 years ago, and not being one of the original founding people of the school, it's taken a while to build that trust, and they've seen what's happening, and I've moved things around, and now I'm starting to get the teachers coming to me instead of me going and pulling teeth and will you do this, will you do that. I've started to have the teachers come and say, hey, I've got this idea, but could you help me with it? I'm not exactly sure how to approach it. Same thing with the 3D printer that Jane was talking about. I thought that would really take off. And what I found is it's a matter of word of mouth. And once we got our biomed class printing out proteins in our 3D printer and doing that, then students started seeing the things that were being printed and finding out how to do that. And now actually today was one of our days off, but right before the show I was out at my school at the 3D printer taking one thing off that a student wanted printed so that I could start printing out a set of teeth for a student to have for class on Tuesday. And so, you know, word is getting out. And so I say leadership comes from, and where is it online? I just saw Liz Dodds said lead teachers versus support teachers. What a great concept. I agree. We have to support our teachers. I like to be that safety net for my teachers, especially when they're trying new technology. I like to co-teach with them, but also leading them by example. I think Andy Clemens is one of the best people that does this, leading by example. Instead of griping because no teachers will collaborate with you, make what you're doing in the library so extraordinary the teachers can't not pay attention to what's happening in your library, and be so involved and say, oh my gosh, how did you do that with my kids? I want to be able to do that too in my classroom. And telling your story. So, who is next?
Can I interrupt? Yes. I wanted to say, I knew that you were at the library doing that tonight, guys, because I follow Nikki's library on Snapchat, and that Snapchat story is awesome. So if you're not, I'm getting ready to tweet it out, but if you're not following Nikki's library on Snapchat, I just think that's one of the most innovative things that you've done this school year, is doing the Snapchat story, because I know your high schoolers have to love that. And I love it. So as far as, it's always the highlight, I'm like, oh, look what they're doing, and I'm showing my kids, you know, on my phone and stuff, and we love seeing what's going on in your big, beautiful, huge library. So kudos.
There's nothing more funny to me than seeing a kid with their cell phone saying to another kid, yeah, it's on the library Snapchat. It kills me every time.
Talk about pushing some boundaries.
Right.
You have to have that. You have to have a reputation in your school, especially, I feel like, at the middle and high school level, because they come if they can, and if they don't, if it's not on their radar, if they don't care what's going on, they just don't come to the library. But if there's something cool going on, or in our case, just the fact that we have comfortable chairs sometimes, kids just are running into the room, like, throwing their passes down, and it's the reputation that so much depends on the kids.
Amanda, say Idea Lab.
Idea Lab.
Just in terms of modeling and leading the teachers.
So we're going to pass it over to Alyssa, because Alyssa's in a brand new school this year. She did similar to me. She left libraries for a year, and then, like me, decided, oh yeah, I really enjoyed being in a library. Alyssa?
I did. I went to the dark side, as some people say, to administration, and was in charge of lots of libraries, but wasn't in my own, and I followed my passion back to the libraries. So it's very interesting, because the library I am in had an amazing librarian, but she was an old school librarian. So it's very new to them to have somebody in this school that wants to collaborate with technology. And they went one-to-one 2 years ago, but they had to do it on their own. So the teachers are not used to having a librarian that'll come and teach the technology to them. They don't know how to handle that. They also they're not used to that role of the librarian as, you know, the person who is there to help them and to work with them and to collaborate and to teach and all of that. I've done a lot. I've brought in a makerspace into the library. I don't have a lot of real space, but I have bookcases that are flat and that are short. So all my makerspace stuff is on top of those bookcases. That's where I put everything. So when the kids like walk through my library, they get, you know, the makerspace is right there when they're looking for books. But I've tried to make it more of a collaborative environment, and it's going to take some time, but I think we're slowly getting there. You know, it was very nice to hear one of my teachers say to me the other day, you know, in such a short period of time, you've you've totally transformed the space, and I'm so happy that you're here. And that, you know, that was nice to hear, because you always sort of wonder, because I'm not, you know, I don't really know all the teachers yet. They're not, you know, we're getting there. They're very nice people and all of that, but it's going to take some time. So it's just this weird, we're getting there. But it's something that I don't want other librarians to feel like, oh my God, some of these librarians just go right in and everything's perfect and great. No, it's not. There is this, this struggle and this battle, and it is not like everything is, perfect. It will take time. It's not going to be like right away tomorrow everything's going to be, the teachers are coming in and everything's good. It's a culture shock when they're not used to the new, a librarian that collaborates.
Right, it is, and I replaced an old school librarian too, but she did such a great job coming in and getting that library started and getting the collection she has in there. I was walking around looking at the books going, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. So she did definitely what she needed to do, and then because she did such a good job doing what she needed to do, I was able to come in and take that transformation. Shannon, though, is one of those people where you were talking about Alyssa, you feel like she just waves a magic wand and everything is perfect and wonderful. So Shannon, tell us where you got your magic wand, one, how can we get one so that we can just wave it and have our wonderful library just like you. But I know you transformed your library as well there at Van Meter.
Yeah, and ours was interesting because at Van Meter, my library was basically 2 classroom spaces put together with a small little office in the center. And I worked in a K-12 building, and so it was unique too because I got to work with all of the kids. But right off the bat, when I first got hired, we turned it into the heart of the school just with a little paint, and my mom made curtains and quilts, and we brought things in that the kids wanted to. But from day one, it was always about the kids. And I went to the kids and I asked them all along the way what their needs were and watched them, and it was always their space. It was never, it was never a perfect space. It was never a space that we had everything that we wanted or needed, and I've never used, things like a whiteboard, like a interactive board, never used one or had one, or a fancy set of speakers or the perfect camera. I mean, that wasn't our space. Our space was all about the community and what was happening there. And a lot of, like Jane was saying, we had restrictions because we weren't going to get new shelves, but we could change them around, and we could, like you guys were saying, not put books on the top of the shelf anymore and make those kind of little changes. But it was always all about the kids and what they wanted. And so when we got, that was from, the very start, and the kids, they always wanted to be there, as did the teachers and our community, parents, and everybody wanted to be there because of that atmosphere that we had. But of course, you have 2 classrooms together. A space like that isn't going to fit everybody either. And so we got really creative and, would go into the hallways or outside or bring in even classrooms virtually, even within our own building, because there wasn't, room for everyone. And when the kids, after we put a printer in the library and we realized that we really needed a space for a maker space, of course, there wasn't space, but we had a library office that had been there for probably 70 years. And so, of course, that was the first place that we looked and cleared that out and asked the kids then to change that into a space that just became another extension. So it was always fun, always evolving, of course, never quiet or super organized, but absolutely loved it because being an artist myself and super creative and not super quiet all the time, that was, how we all learn and how we love it too. And I think that sometimes our kids, they have to do so many things that they have to do and they have to get done, and sometimes it's good to come to the library and just to be you, and to have that voice that we want all our kids and our teachers and community to have too. And I want to come visit your guys' library in Maine. It sounds fun. No, I'm sitting here with Hagen, and we're thinking that maybe we should come visit. So,
you absolutely should. Portland's a really, really great city.
Yeah, it sounds like it's awesome. So, I'm proud of you guys for what you're doing.
Thank you. Amanda, what would you add to what you've heard tonight about leading, modeling. I've noticed some different things, like several of us talked about our offices are not our offices anymore. They've been turned into green rooms, or we're working with what we have. What would you add to this to our viewers of how we can model?
Great. And I'm thinking too of I think it was a comment you read online that, you know, how do we keep ourselves or make ourselves relevant or keep ourselves relevant? And I keep getting back to that idea that it's what, of course, we put the students first. That's a really important point. I think that's what makes us all librarians in some sense. You know, who is it that comes to us and we provide some service to? And when you look at what they need, whether it's your teachers or your students, what do they need to learn, to be professional, to grow, to have a place to relax or innovate, whatever it is. And if it's not available somewhere in the school, it should be available in the library. And at the same time, what we struggle with a lot, all the way back from the beginning of our conversation about there being a shortage of professional librarians in Maine, it's really, to be more clear, it's a shortage of professional librarian positions in Maine. I wouldn't say we are lacking the qualified people, but we're lacking the understanding at an admin level of what really a librarian does in this day and age, what you should expect for them to do, what kind of program you should have. And until we change the mindset of all our administrators as well, that's a struggle we're going to have here for a while. But we stay relevant by being that thing that doesn't exist elsewhere. And if we want to be treated like, in some of our schools, we're struggling to be treated as a peer to the teachers, and others we're pushing ourselves to be more of the leaders to teachers, and that comes with time. You can't really go in the first year and be all bossy. But you know, if we want to be treated as a teacher, do we get a private office space that we can go in and just, you know, I hear stories of my predecessor having his feet up and reading a book, and don't bother him if the door is closed, and that just horrified me. And I said, no, make it a studio. I don't want to go in there. I will sit out. Don't think for a second I have that kind of free time, because I don't. And so if the school needs a small workspace with a nice window in the front, then that's what the school needs. And I'll have to lean back for this. The other comment we say a lot is, with a great flourishment, it's our library. You have to see the hands. Our library. It's not my library, and it's not Mr. Werner's library. You know, it's a school space, and we've been talking about that in libraries forever, that if we want to be the center of the school. But again, to apply that back towards how are we relevant and how do we model, is we make that the hub that has the climate and the atmosphere that you want, the engagement that you want for teachers and students, and not to say that it's a makerspace or something else, because that really depends on the school, but that's where you need to, that's how you stay relevant. You have to provide something no one else can in the school.
I'm going to let Jen talk too.
And we're great, that's why we do that. Librarians, I mean.
Quick thumbnail sketch is Amanda at my desk has a rolling chair in it, and we're never in it, and teachers are constantly asking if they can sit in it, and we let them sit in it all the time, and it is hilarious to watch the people that are like, what? That's yours, I can't sit there. Like, no, it's ours. So Amanda and I have that down pat, but it's really, I mean, that's such a great thumbnail sketch of the sensibility that we want them to feel, and even in something as basic as, can I sit in your chair? You know, we have to put a sign on it, Amanda. This is your chair too.
Right. Well, and it's great to apply to the situations where you're talking to other teachers or staff who don't like a noisy library or don't like that kind of environment. They're more traditional, perhaps. And it's, if you say, well, do you need it quiet, or do all the students here in the library right now need it quiet? And sure, if the majority of people in the room need it quiet, then it's quiet that, hour. But yeah, that we talk about it being ours, and who needs this the most, and I lost the third one. Darn, I always have three things except for that.
So we have 4 minutes left. Jennifer, we're going to let you wrap us up on this conversation about modeling for teachers and libraries.
Well, absolutely. And just listening to everybody talk, there were 1,000 threads that I thought were so important along the way. One of them was about, I think it was, Shannon was talking about, making a student-centered library. And, back when I was in library school, I asked someone, as I was interning with, how do I get in to collaborate with teachers? And she said the best thing you can do is connect with the kids. You connect with the kids, and the teachers see that, and they do want to work with you. And another, just in a really brief amount of time, I want to say that, understanding a little bit about change process is very helpful for librarians, especially if you're walking into a new situation where there's a lot of change needed. I was the first professional librarian at the elementary level. I had 6 schools when I started, and I really had to show what librarians did differently, a professional librarian could do, that a lot of these really awesome, amazing ed techs weren't necessarily doing. And so, information literacy was an open door for that, and really teaching that, and then now expanding that to 21st century skills and the 3 C's, and being very involved as a leader in teaching that, really having an understanding of those things and having concrete ways that we teach and assess those have been extremely helpful and very relevant for our curriculum leaders. And the other thread that I was pulling up as we were talking was just like being as a modeling for teaching staff and for students, being willing to take risks. We're always trying a new technology, and sometimes we think something's going to work and it doesn't work, and we learn from failure too, and we teach kids that that's okay, and just modeling that kind of growth mindset for ourselves, and then being really transparent in our collaboration with the teachers, for the students, is really modeling all those C's that we, Jonathan's wonderful slide, put up for us. So is that a good wrap up?
That's wonderful, Jennifer. Thank you so very much. This has been a great show for the new year, a different format. I hope that you liked it. We'll continue it again next month, and Jane is going to tell us we have a really cool show again next month, and Jane's going to let us know what to look forward to in February.
Oh, wait, quickly, before you do that, because I'm going to jump in before Jane, I just wanted to let you know, because, Sherry will get mad at me, and Jonathan will get mad at me if I don't do this. ISTE, my TL chat people, ISTE Librarian Network, we are doing a webinar. Yes, I'm going to promote what we do also here, because you guys can watch it free, like you can in Google Hangout, like you're just watching this. Next Tuesday night, I'm doing, tech tips for the new school year. So Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, half hour, join us there. Join us at the ISTE Librarian Network thing. That was my thing, sorry.
And Alyssa, thanks for jumping in. Normally we do go over a little bit of school library news, upcoming events, and so forth. We'll have any of those events on the TL Newsnight wiki. So if you have an event that you want posted on that wiki, please let us know, and we will tweet out that page for you once we have the archive up and going. So Jane, tell everybody the cool show we're going to have, that we have lined up for February.
Okay, I have the honor of closing the show out tonight, and I just want to tell you to be sure to join us Monday, February 15th, to chat about ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, and school libraries. And our special guests on February 15th will be Sarah Kelly-Johns, Leslie Preddy, and Tom Murray. And for tonight, that's a wrap.
Good night, everyone. Good night.